Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the new Incineroar with the move Darkest Lariat as well as Blast Burn. Both moves are going to be great nuke moves, as well as this Pokemon actually is going to be way better in the Open Master League than you might expect, because it is going to have quite a lot of Pokemon that can completely hardwall. For example, Mewtwo. Mewtwo usually runs the moveset of Side Strike and Shadow Ball, both of which we're going to be able to resist, as well as we're going to have super effective damage against it. But there are even more Pokemon, like Giratina, which you completely hardwall, but also, for example, the Solgaleo, usually running a moveset of Fire Spin resisted, the Psychic Fangs double resisted, and the Iron Head single resisted, which is going to be great for us, as we also did for super effective damage. And even, I think there were some more Pokemon that we can actually hardwall as well with this thing. So let's try it out if this Pokemon actually can do something, if we can get some nice wins with this. Here we're going to have a team which is just basically the core that I like to use the most currently, which is the Xerneas plus Palkia Origin form. I don't have the right Palkia, but Xerneas is already enough to just win the first game for us. Moving on to the next opponent, we're going to have a lead that I don't like with this team. Because usually this team does not have, of course, the Incineroar in the back. What I usually run with this team is the Kyogre in the back. And then you can kind of swap out into your Palkia, try to bait out something like a Dialga or whatever, and then try to sweep endgame with the Kyogre. Well, of course, Kyogre would be a great asset against the opponent's Landorus. We don't have that option right now. And so I decided to stay in for a little bit. I don't really know how to play around this here. It's going to be a little bit of a trickier one for us in general. But we can at least still hit a Moonblast against them. This should do some decent damage and hopefully put them into range where we can farm them down real quick with a Palkia. But they decide to swap out. It's going to be a Xerneas, and honestly, this is just hardwall. There's not a lot that I can do. I just have to hope that I basically get 2 Awkward Tails off. But let's find out. First Awkward Tail coming through. Can we still get to the next one? We just miss out by 1. Fast move inside. Just decide to forfeit this game, but we can move on to the next one. Next opponent, Hisuian Everluck in the lead, and the opponent decides to forfeit. Lovely, isn't it? But yeah, sometimes we just have those games in there as well where people just, I guess, tank, maybe, because we're kind of high up in leaderboards rankings here, so definitely people are kind of maybe a little bit annoyed at like Q times or something like this. But yeah, we're going to see here the next opponent again in Landorus. I just don't really like Landorus, but we're going to have our Palkia aligned against it, which is kind of okay for us. Not ideal yet, but I was thinking, like, if I use a shield here, they most likely can go into the 2-shield scenario and win this one. But if I don't use a shield, I should be in a fairly decent spot, as I can still barely reach another Awkward Tail. This is going to be very important for us to reach this one. Of course, our Shando Palkia is always kind of nice flex. Still, I really hope that we can get Spatial Rent eventually on this Pokemon. But in the back, they're going to have a Heatran, and so we can go for a close combat. Being super effective, they might want to use a shield, and we can swap into our Incineroar now, which can even take a Stone Edge. So we're going to let this next move go through. We know how important our lead is over Xerneas, and the opponent is deciding to stay in for a little bit. I make a mistake here. I went for Darkest Lariat. You just have to go for the Blast Burn. Blast Burn is a better move to go for, and it's cheaper in general. So like it didn't really matter here to me, to be honest. But in the future, Blast Burn is still the better move to go for. If both are neutral, Blast Burn is the way to go. I think they do exactly the same amount of damage, or like maybe the other one does like 10 more damage but takes more energy. Not too sure about it. But yeah, basically it is better for you to go for Blast Burn in general. But still, we're going to be able to go for another close combat here. This should get the knockout against the opponent's Palkia, and with this we can reach another close combat against the Heatran, which is going to allow us to easily win this game. Good game there. Next opponent, we're going to have a Landorus in the lead. Again, Landorus in the lead is not ideal for our team. If you run this the normal way with the Kyogre in the back, this would be something where you want to swap out. Maybe just stay in until you go for 1 Moonblast and hopefully get a shield from the opponent, but then swap out afterwards. Here, I decided to go for the Moonblast. Let's see if they're going to let this move go through or not. They decide to use a shield, but I still decide to swap out here because I feel like maybe Blast Burn is going to do enough damage after a little bit more fast move damage in order to knock them out, but they decide to swap out into their own Palkia. Here's the thing. I think I would have been able to reach the Spatial Rent, because Spatial Rent is 50 energy at this point. But I know, of course, that other people, especially, yeah, maybe watch my videos as well, or like look at Twitter and saw that I got a Shando that doesn't have Spatial Rent. And so they don't really have to use a shield there. which can be the case here. Maybe they know it was just like one fast move off or whatever, I don't know. But of course, like, it's a little bit of a trickier scenario. We're going to have our Incineroar now against a Landorus. Landorus has the energy advantage. Landorus has the shield disadvantage though. And so we can use a shield here, but of course the debuff is going to be annoying. We're going to see here now as well how much damage a Blast Burn can do. Never mind, but I think that, okay, they can still go for another charge move prior. So we can see maybe what a double debuff Blast Burn would do against a Landorus. So we can at least estimate if a normal one would would be enough. I'm thinking a normal one would be enough, but of course, with a double debuff, yeah, it's barely not enough to knock them out, so that's kind of unfortunate. Good game to the opponent, though. Not a lot that I can do about it. Very unfortunate. Like, if I got the shield there before, and also they have a Mewtwo in the back. Mewtwo is one of the hardest, like basically Incineroar is like one of the hardest walls to the Mewtwo. Would have been lovely, but it is what it is. We can move on to the next opponent. I wonder if this is like alt accountable with the other one prior, because we have Meta Attack and we have Zack Attack now, and I feel like they're both kind of the same player, I would imagine. I'm not too sure. So, yeah, we're going to see here a different team though. They're going to have a Xerneas in the lead, and we're going to get the attack buff, or like drop here immediately, which is going to be very good for me, as the Moonblast is going to now do less damage from the opponent, and I feel like a close combat might be enough to knock them out. So let's find out if this is going to be enough. It's barely not, and I can try to swap out, but it did not even work for me, and so now I can go into my Palkia against the Reshiram. Here, I was very surprised to see how much damage the opponent does against me. Like, they have somewhat of a breakpoint against me, I would imagine. I'm not too sure if I best buddy my Palkia, if it would be better for me. Not too sure, but at least I can still farm them all the way down with my own Xerneas, have nearly 100 energy, and they're going to have in the back here the Terrakion. This is literally the single worst Pokemon I could imagine for our Incineroar. Like, literally. Maybe I could have played better and went for like more fast moves here before I go for the next close combat. I think this would have been the play. Not too sure if it would have worked because we were debuffed already. But honestly, this is the worst thing I could have imagined. It's resisting all the damage, and both of the stab moves of the opponent are super effective against us. This is literally the single hardest wall to our Incineroar, which is absolutely wild to encounter this Pokemon, because basically it does not exist, especially in the current Moss League meta. It's not really great Pokemon to run. Before it was actually way better, but now where Palkia is around and where the Landorus is around as like the two main meta Pokemon, this thing is sadly not really that great. But of course, against Incineroar it is, and so we're sadly going to lose this battle. Next opponent, let's find out what they're going to have here. We're going to have a swap of the Metagross, and in the end, I feel like I kind of make a misplay here, because if someone swaps out into a Metagross, the likelihood of them having something like a Solgaleo in the back is pretty high, and so here I'm forced to use a shield because they have Earthquake. If I went into my Palkia, I would have had a better matchup where I wouldn't have needed to shield anything, and of course I would have liked to have my Incineroar against the opponent's yeah, what's called the opponent Solgaleo, if they have one in the back. Of course, we don't know at this point. But here I can go for the Darkest Lariat, still doing a ton of damage. Like, honestly, that does a ton of damage against the Palkia. And we see the Awkward Tail coming through. I can swap into my own Palkia, and yes, they're going to have the Solgaleo in the back, which I expected they would. But we are still going to be in a spot where we can do something here at least. As you're gonna see, I can go for an Awkward Tail. The opponent might want to use a shield, maybe not. Let's find out together. They decide to use a shield here, and so what we can go for is we can go for our own charge move. This is going to be the Awkward Tail, going to be able to get another shield from them. This is going to be great, as I can catch a move onto my Xerneas, and now I can go for a close combat against them, which is going to be very important. So this is going to be a very interesting scenario now, because we had -3 defense. And this is going to be kind of interesting, because I am going to decide to use this shield, so we had -4 defense, and they still win the CMP tie. Interesting thing here though, they don't knock me out. Just barely they don't knock me out, and so we are going to be at -4 defense, so they don't get any farm with their own Palkia. And I have to hope that I can farm them down in time, and as we can see here, we can, and we can move on into the next battle. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have a Dialga here. Dialga is going to be very decent for us. Like, the thing here for this team is you kind of want to hit a close combat as soon as you kind of possibly can, because what you can do then is you can swap out. Because one close combat puts them into farm down range for usually, of course, Kyogre in the back, but for both of our Pokemon in the back, we should be able to farm down after one close combat, and so that's basically my main goal. They're going to have a Zacian in the back, and this is like one of the issues as well for this team with the Incineroar instead of like a different Pokemon. Fairy-type Pokemon as a Safe Swap are very tricky to deal with, because, yeah, usually they're going to have coverage with close combat. And so I decided to swap out here, interestingly enough, into my Palkia, which can go for an Awkward Tail, which is going to be enough to knock them out after the Moonblast, which is very important for us. But yeah, before I re-end this video, which is still going to be like 2 battles afterwards, feel free to let me know how your community day went. For me, I was outside for around like 1.5 hours, where I played only like 1 hour because of the half an hour of battles. But still got a lot of shinies. Definitely cool community day. Definitely a Pokemon, by the way, especially for Great and Ultra League, which you want to hold back and like try to wait until it's gonna have a better fast move. because it literally needs like something like Incinerate or like Shadow Claw, something like this, in order to be really, really good and really, really meta. So I would imagine, especially as a lot of starter Pokemon got buffed in the past already, that we're gonna see a buff towards this Pokemon eventually as well. But here we're gonna see at least some nice damage output from this thing against something like the opponent's Pokemon. We're gonna not be able to reach the Blast Burn Great Steam P-type from them, but if they are not at 2 Iron Heads, we're going to be able to win this game as we have a close combat start, and so we're gonna be able to win this one here with our Xerneas. Good game there, and we can move on to the second to last one. Darkest David, X rank 1 in the world from the season, first rank 1 in the world from the season. Actually, he sent me the even gameplay for this one. Kinda sorry that I wasn't able to showcase it, because I actually didn't see that the leaderboards were updated, otherwise I would have definitely showcased it as well. But yeah, we're going to see here a matchup that is not ideal for me, like literally not ideal. Kyogre in the lead usually is something where you can swap out because you have your own Kyogre in the back. Here we don't. I still decided to swap out, and again, like people who know me know that I don't have Spatial Rent here. They decided to go ahead and go for a no shield, but they decided to use a shield on the Awkward here, which is kind of decent for us. But usually they are running some Spice as well, which is going to hopefully come in clutch as well. We're going to see here that the opponent is going to go for their Roar of Time, which means that we can definitely go for the Blast Burn before they can go for another one. They need 5 fast moves, I think, after a Roar of Time to get to another one if they are at 100 energy, maybe even a little bit more. Never mind, actually a little bit more. So yeah, we could have maybe went for an extra fast move there, but as you're going to see here, the opponent is going to have a Shadow Gyarados in the back, which I imagine is a very good Pokemon in the Go Battle League right now. But as you're gonna see here, of course, our Incineroar is not gonna do too much damage with these Snarls, sadly. I would have needed to farm them all the way down. Doesn't work out, so I'm just going to give it a shortcut and don't use my shield. We can move on to the final battle of today. So, if you enjoyed this one so far, I would really appreciate if you leave a like. Helps out the channel quite a bit, especially in the current time. It is a little bit tricky with the recent leaks, with Spring Cup not getting any traction. Ultra League was not that crazy interesting for most people as well. Now Master League, of course, very inaccessible for a lot of people. I feel like Master League would have been such a cool league if RXL candies would be a little bit more accessible. Myself, like I have like 600 RXL candy laying around, but of course I kind of want to use them for the mythical Pokemon where you can't get the RXL candy any other way. But yeah, we're going to get the route soon. Maybe I'm actually going to use some RXL candies on this Pokemon because it is a very cool Pokemon, a very unique Pokemon for the Open Master League. But I will definitely use some on Mars Shadow, which you're going to get during the Community Day. Mars Shadow Community Day would be a great thing, to be fair. But of course, during the Go Fest, where I have to wait until the global one because I'm sadly not going to be able to attend any in-person one this year. Hopefully next year again. Would have really liked to go to Spain, to be fair. Like I think it's really cool that they put it to Madrid, I think it is, which I really enjoy as well. Like I like when they kind of change location. That's the thing as well for like those in-person events, also for like the Play Pokemon events. I just don't like to go to the same location twice or like several times, which is also my problem basically with London, because they put like everything to London. Like they had like EYC again back to back in London. They had a Go Fest in London. They had last Worlds, like the Worlds prior basically, in London before the Japan one. And I just don't really like London because I was there all the time. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video anyway, because we can now knock out the Landorus. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully you have a great community day or had a great community day. And I'll see you then. Bye bye.